want to go to Joe Borelli on all of that, the New York City Council Minority Whip, also Trump 2020 New York co-chair. Joe, before I get to what's happening in Staten Island, businesses trying to reopen and some getting punished when they try that, what do you make of revisiting the whole Paycheck Protection Program? Maybe variations of it, but it seems like that was certainly well received. There were bumps along the way, clearly, but that people might be revisiting it. What do you think?
I think the revisiting of it is going to be necessary as we realize that 8 weeks simply just wasn't enough. I mean, the criteria might have to change so that we can pick up some of the businesses that for various reasons might have been left out or not qualified. But overall, big picture, I think businesses are finding out that 8 weeks is simply not long enough that they're going to need before they're operating at full tilt. Here in New York City, for example, we're not even in phase one, never mind the phases that some businesses will be able to even open.
Let's talk a little bit about those businesses, particularly in the Staten Island area, one of the outer boroughs of New York, and this concern that a lot of them are chafing at these requirements that they have to stay closed. There was one tanning salon I know that had disputed that, argued against that, tried to reopen. We just learned that it was hit with a $1,000 fine to shut the door again. You were there. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I woke up needing some sunblock, so I went down to Sunbelievable and tried to make a purchase. But, you know, we could snicker because it's a tanning salon, but the reality is this is a business that for one family on Staten Island, this is how they put food on their plate. And there just does not seem to be any sense of urgency from Governor Cuomo or Mayor de Blasio in making sure these things open. If you'll indulge me for 1 second, there's 4 things happening in New York City. There's bread lines, Neil. There are 1 million meals per day being given out to people who were not impoverished on February 28th. There's businesses, large and small, going bankrupt. There's workers finding out that their jobs are just not going to be there when it opens up. And finally, we have a giant budget deficit that's not caused by expenses. We always spend money here in New York City. The cause is that we've lost all our revenue, all of our sales tax, all of our real estate recording taxes and things like that. The commonality to all of these problems is that the solution lies in reopening and jumpstarting small businesses like this tanning salon and the 150 other thousand ones in New York City.
You know, Joe, it looked like you were there, and it looked like big crowds were there. Obviously, were they supporting the salon owner, or just fill me in?
Yeah, no, these were people that had heard that the police were likely to shut down the business. Most of them were fellow business owners who operate similar things or restaurants or what have you. And a lot of them were just people who are just fed up. You know, here in Staten Island, we can go right over the bridge to New Jersey where you can go to a restaurant and you can do certain things. And the metrics for opening up New York just don't seem to be fair. The governor originally told us that this had to be a regional thing with all of our neighboring states. Then the governor of Connecticut and the governor of New Jersey simply left us in our dust. Then he opened up the states per region of the actual state itself. Then he started going by county. There just doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And when you realize that the mayor and governor are just winging it, like most business owners are going to be forced to, you really have to question whether continuing just closing people down is the right thing to do.
How do you think it's going to go next month?
Look, I think people are going to be disheartened when they realize that they're not in phase one. I mean, phase one really opens up most businesses that have been allowed to operate in some capacity as is. You know, when you talk about restaurants, they're not going to be in New York's phases until phase 3, and even then with capacity limitations. The economics simply don't bear out. If you're a restaurant and you can only open with, you know, 1/3 of capacity or 25% of capacity, it still doesn't pay for you to bring in your kitchen staff and wait staff, etc. So I think the desire is there to reopen. We know that people around this city are taking matters into their own hands, whether they're opening under the table or they're just going to neighboring jurisdictions or they're just going out in parks and enjoying, you know, a cold drink with their pals. But the sentiment is changing in New York City, and the governor and mayor need to see that the way out of a lot of our problems that we're going to have down the road is towards reopening quickly and safely.
Joe Borelli, well said. Always good seeing you, my friend Joseph Borelli.